same question, but connected, Amit, to what I was speaking of earlier in terms of it's the risk mitigation, assessment, analytics, easier said than done for MSMEs. And we know that Terry has been working in this domain for close to 50 years now. What's your point of view for MSMEs?
So, Saptarshi, Terry has right from the beginning been working with industries, the whole spectrum. But our focus has always been small and micro industries because of the very fact that we realize that big industry in any case are sufficient to take care of their requirement, whereas as far as small and micro, particularly micro industries are concerned, you require lot of work to be done with them for them to imbibe these kind of efficient solution to the extent that hand holding has to be there, financing has to be arranged, all those things. So I will give you just one example. For last about 5 years, we have been working in silk weaving clusters in Varanasi, where these famed Banarsi sarees are made. Now, all these clusters have now converted into power looms. And all those areas which are just outside Varanasi are grid connected also. But what we realized that supply is still disrupted for 4 to 5 hours daily. And what the impact of that power cut is that power looms are unable to run for the time they can, which affect the productivity. And B, whenever power goes and comes back again all of a sudden, it affects quality of weaving also because of knots and all those things come into picture, which in a way affect the pricing. Now you asked about how do we balance the climate change requirement with these kind of customers, so to say. My plain answer would be that for us to approach these kind of industries is pure economics. To see that their productivity can increase, to see that their livelihoods could be positively impacted. So those are the kind of pitch I would like to say we make. Climate change, clean energy, all those things are byproduct of that. So what we have done over there, and this is also a very good example of how CSR of commercial entities could come handy. So this is a project we are doing for 5 years with Indus Towers. In last 5 years, we have set up what we call as solar hybrid charging station. So why these are hybrid? Because whenever grid is there, they work on grid, or otherwise when grid is not there, they provide uninterrupted supply through solar. And the controls are like that solar will always take precedence so that you are able to reduce your grid electricity requirement also. So we have set up around 238 such units supplying electricity to, I think, close to 900 power looms and about 50 odd reeling units. And what we have seen that on one hand, so these units are owned by someone. So owners have been able to increase their incomes by 40% or so. And the weavers who, because of lack of electricity at times, were not being able to put in the kind of hours they can put in for that thing, and they are paid on hourly basis. So their incomes have also increased by close to 30%. So these are the kind of interventions that we are trying to make. Of course, without CSR support, it would not have been possible for us to introduce such kind of thing. But we have also made sure that unlike government program where everything is subsidized and given to a user, so to say, here at least 30-40% is being put in by the consumers also. And for that, we also try to make arrangement with the rural finance banks and all those things. And other important thing that we have introduced in this is that we have created energy enterprises that are based locally, who then right from the installation take care of everything, working with these weavers, and also taking care of after sales service. So this is how we are working on a variety of such models.
So from energy enterprises, microgrids, power for energy looms, then what Joe spoke of in terms of access, a question really, aimed at both of you, and this is largely from some of the questions that come to us from both policy communicators or corporate affairs people in organizations. There are climate change goals, and there are issues that companies grapple with regard to being able to advise the C-suite in meeting some of these climate change goals. How would you advise some of them to work with governments, whether at the state level or federal, to find the right resolution to some of the issues that these corporates face? And what really is that pathway to walk in finding that point of collaboration and confluence to be able to achieve that? Maybe Joe can go first.
Thank you. So, I think a few things that are essential. The first is about action. I've mentioned before about getting your house in order, on water. But our theory of change is that first, as businesses, we should do everything that we can do ourselves, and then we should use that to go with other companies, to policymakers, to engage in a constructive dialogue about what's needed to go further. So action, partnerships, and then going together as industries, concerned companies with a common interest. And I think just as important is partnering with regulators. So I gave the example before about water. There's been a lot of effort made by advocacy groups to litigate the government or different governments in South Asia to disclose water data. And that was not our approach at all. Our approach was we wanted to make data available in a way that could be used by businesses and any other responsible user. And we wanted to publish it, without judgment, but just to improve decision making. And, over time, we showed that as industry, that was our purpose. And we demonstrated that we were doing that. And as a result, the government was willing to share more data with us over time, which we treated respectfully and accurately and did put in the public domain for wider use. I think it's critical to draw the boundaries. So, the world is big and problems are many. And so bringing them back into your sphere of influence and your priorities, and then working with others who have a stake in it. So work on the issues that are most material to you. I think it's very important that you're clear whether you're going to go as a sectoral group, so all the cement companies, or as a geographical group, everyone in an industrial cluster, or as a value chain. And I think sometimes it can be valuable to have a value chain going. So the one example would be power generators, power users, the supply and demand side. I think in electric vehicles, where you've got OEMs and charging companies, as well as fleet managers and so on, bringing the whole value chain together so that you're not advocating for special interest. You're trying to grow the market in an area where the government has articulated a desire to see a market grow. You can go along and say, the market will grow quicker. If we think it will grow quicker if you factor these things in, and you can have that debate. And usually the government, if it's approached in the right way, will be interested to listen.
Yeah, and we've seen quite a bit of success with that in that collaborative value chain driven approach. But Amit, any of your inputs on that approach? Joe spoke of taking a value chain together, cement, for example, or large industries that consume power. Do you have any additional insight into what, therefore, is that right approach that corporates can take in reaching that consensus?
I think, and that's based on my personal experience, partnership is the key to it. And that's where probably organizations like WBCSD or think tanks come into fore, where ultimately what is advocacy? Advocacy, as I take it, is more about a process of mediating different interest groups together and see that what could be found out as a solution. So I think partnership is the key in all of the climate change thing that we are doing. And that is something we have to build upon rather than taking positions as regulated and regulator, rather. So as opposed to that, that this is a common problem and that need to be solved. And what could be the best approach to that?
Sure. Thank you, Amit. And with that sort of insight, I just wanted to take up a couple of questions. We have about 4 minutes to go, and therefore, with your permission, panelists, I have tracked a question coming in specifically for Joe. The question is, how can big or large multinational manufacturing companies help smaller MSMEs become more efficient and sustainable when we talk about improving water equity?
Hey, I mean, interested to know if this is coming from a multinational or from a company in the supply chain.
It's coming from an anonymous user.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I mean, you know, data and measurement are critical. I think building a business case. So water is pretty cheap. And so it's hard to build a business case around investments in water efficiency. The only way to build a business case for investment in sustainable water management is around business interruption. And multinationals increasingly need to know that their supplies are reliable. And if they're sourcing from India, they will be asking questions about whether the water supply is where the manufacturing is taking place is reliable and sustainable. So being able to measure and track the trends on water availability where you are, you know, either you as the MSE or you as a multinational working with the MSE. I think it's also, you mentioned the word equity, and you know, I mean, I'd use a different word maybe, you know, which is about resiliency. So an MSME is not resilient if it has a contract for water from the government for 40 years, but the community in which it's operating doesn't have water security, then that MSME doesn't have a certain water supply. So, you know, it's absolutely essential that both the plant and the surrounding area have sustainable, a reliable, resilient water supply. And so it's just about understanding that, measuring that, and then making the interventions that are required. And usually that's a lot cheaper than shifting your plant.
You're on mute, Sapna.
There's a question from Kunal Jain, who's the Deputy Secretary of the Indian Chemical Council. This is a question for the panel, so for both Joe and Amit. The question is, how can we achieve the right balance between climate action and commercial growth of businesses? At least in India, most policies, most of which remain in draft versions only, are focused on regulation and completely ignore commercial aspects.
Amit, I'm happy to go.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I mean, you know, I don't know exactly which. I mean, usually, you know, to take Amit's point about not looking at the regulators versus the regulated, I'd add to that as well as not looking at it as a trade-off between sustainability and commercial success. So often, and I know of some examples to do with your sector, often regulations might be intended to drive sustainability, but actually drive unsustainable practices like zero liquid discharge, for example. But at the same time, just as I mentioned before about business interruption because of water availability, you know, all the factories in Gujarat were shut down about 2 years ago, all of them, regardless of their environmental performance, because of rulings from the Green Tribunal. And, you know, that is not, so it's not sustainable or commercially successful to be, you know, to be polluting. So, you know, I think there's no lasting success without having a clean business, and tracking your own data, investing in your own technologies, being able to differentiate yourself from other producers, is important. I think you're from the Indian Chemical Council more broadly, but I do know that some factories were able to sooner because they had data on what was coming out of their pipes, whereas they were in a polluted area and others had to stay closed. So I think we've got to see, it's got to be a partnership, and you've got to see long-term commercial success tied up in environmental sustainability as well.
So it talks about carbon footprints of practicing ZLD is quite also high. Same question for Amit, really, the balance between climate action and commercial growth.
I think the question of balance between climate action and commercial operation perhaps come because of the time frame that we examine both into. While climate action is something we are looking at in long term, which I said in different contexts about the politicians, and commercial operations are more of immediate nature. So if we are able to actually evaluate that climate action, or rather absence of climate actions, is also going to impact our long-term commercial sustainability, I think many of those balance questions would be solved by themselves. So the point is that how deeply and in what time frame we are carrying out that exercise to see that which is to be done now and which can be actually postponed for some other day.
So time frame of engagement and looking at what really is viability, essentially are the 2 points that come out from as responses from the panel to this question. We've exceeded our time slot by about 4.5 minutes. So if Parul wants to run the survey now, we could do that. But thank you, Amit, and thank you, Joe, for a very productive, very insightful session. If we have any more questions, what we'll do is we will send them across to you. If they're targeted at you individually, we'll send them across to you individually, or if it's for the panel, we'll send them across to you. But thank you so much for your time. Parul, do you want to run the poll?
Yes, I'm just give me a second. I'll just launch the poll. That was a fabulously interesting discussion.
While that happens, I see another questions that just popped up on an internal group that we're using for questions. That's a good one. This is to Amit. Small Indian companies, even smaller than MSMEs in certain cases, do not have any sustainable development goals. How can public policy professionals such as us help smaller companies, vendors, downstream, proctors, adopt few sustainable development goals and make them more mainstream as part of their business objectives?
So I think as a society or as a country, if we were to look into different indicators and targets within those SDGs, we will find that many of them applies to any kind of industry, even the micro ones. So for example, if I were to take SDG 7, which is all about sustainable energy for all, different targets within that actually applies to whatever these people are doing by way of how they use energy, or in terms of if they don't have access to energy, how they are suffering from that. So I think if you were to look SDGs more closely and more broadly, rather than looking at them at face value itself, I think these can very well be applied to any situation.
Even for the smaller, entities.
Yes. So and that's why I took the example of micro industries. Nothing would be smaller than that in Indian context. People who are making hand toys, who can actually get benefited if they are going to use power-based lathes and all. So all those kind of people.
Thank you, Amit. That should be valuable insight. And so we're wrapping this session up. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Amit, for joining us. Thank you, Parul.